Hey guys, so recently I decided to try something new. I sat down with my buddy Giz, who used to be deeply involved with esports, not only playing, but coaching and managing teams as well. So we got to talk to him about how he got involved, his experience with it, and just his entire thought behind it. So I hope you enjoy this video. Make sure that you like and subscribe. Yeah, hopefully this is the first in a long line of interviews and stuff, but you had mentioned that you wanted to do Super Auto Pets. I'd gotten thinking, you had mentioned something, can't remember when, that about esports, and realized over the couple of years that we've known each other, heard you mention it, but never really knew how you got into it. And I find it super interesting. So how did you get into it?
So I've competed in, I want to say, almost every type of esports. I started playing on console, and the console esports versus PC esports scene is very segregated, especially when it comes to shooters. Overwatch was my main game, and if you played console at like the highest tier, probably 50 people knew your name. If you played Overwatch at the highest tier in its peak, probably 50,000 people knew your name. Right, so I played during the hype of Overwatch throughout console, and then I moved over to PC, where I coached as a tier 2 coach, and then I became a tier 1 team manager, basically just handling it all out. So I basically got to touch bases with every single aspect of esports, from player to coaching to upper management, throughout that whole line. And it all probably started around I want to say it was 2017. I started playing. I started really grinding the game. I started skipping class. Let's be real. And while I was skipping class, I became which I do not recommend, right? But when I started skipping class, I really started putting hours into the game, and it became something where I was clocking around 13 to 15 hours in the game daily, for probably about 4 months. So I had no social life whatsoever. But within the game, I started meeting other people. Since I was playing amongst I ranked at one point amongst the top 500 for a few seasons, and during those seasons, I got to meet other high elo players. They would say hey, why are you not on a team? You should probably join a team. Try tryouts, and little by little, I started integrating myself into North American teams. But the North American scene was way more, I want to say, demanding, right? It was 4 days of practice, 1 day of VODs, 2 days of tournament. So you basically had zero social life. So I tried my hand in Latin America, and Latin America, it was less competitive, but it was more, I want to say, weeded together. And if you were somebody, your name got around. So I would have people from Mexico, Argentina, Chile, Peru, trying to reach out to me and be like, hey, do you want to earn $250 a month playing with us? And I'm a 17-year-old kid. I'm thinking, holy shit, $250.
I'm
these
rich.
People want to make me a millionaire.
Goodness.
Yeah, for real. I'm like, oh my god, that's so much gas money. But yeah, it was really fun. It was something that really picked out, that really kickstarted itself with networking, and people saw me as in rank, and they're like, oh my god, this guy's a rank goblin. I've never seen him in a tournament. And it's just because I didn't know how to get into the scene, and it was really more of other players kind of paved the way for it. I'm trying to see. There was a guy named Samuel, which is SAMYHUEL, and I remember him. He was the first North American player who I ever talked to who mentioned tournaments, and he was kind of the guy who told me hey, these teams are having tryouts. Have you ever heard of Discord? And at the time, I didn't know what Discord was, and I was like, no, I've never heard of it. But I post my clips on Facebook, bro. and he introduced me to Discord. He showed me all the tournaments. A big one is probably a Space Esports used to do big tournaments. The Console Gaming League, which is basically I think they also had some affiliation to MLG back at the time.
Okay.
They were also running tournaments, and yeah, that was kind of the gateway into it. My bad, I went on a whole tangent about Facebook.
No, I mean you wound up through that tangent. I had a couple of questions, and then as soon you just pivoted and answered a lot of it, which
My
awesome.
bad.
So no, it's perfect. Like I said, super interesting. So you played a shit ton of Overwatch. People started seeing that you were super high up there, and then they kind of reached out to you and were like, "Hey, you should,
Yep.
you know." So were a lot of the word, like the tryouts and stuff, is that usually done through Discord, or do they have like how do people like find those tryouts? I know like probably competitions are posted through social media, and I'm assuming most people can kind of join if they've got, but how do you like try out?
So a bunch of teams would mostly reach out. When I started, I want to say peaking during the time, I was like I was number one for like 2 weeks, but I always say I was number one for like 2 months. But I was the number one Reinhardt for a bit, and during the seasons that I really started grinding it, were around seasons 9 to 16 of competitive. Reinhardt was at his peak. Every team had a good Reinhardt main, and I wasn't exactly the greatest player, but when you're playing the position I was playing, shot calling is key, and I'm vocal as like I love talking. If it's not obvious already,
No,
right?
no, not at all.
And there was not really, and I would be very vocal. I would be very leading, even though I want to say at a talk, I was toxic as heck. My mind would never shift off of the game. It was very hard to tilt me, and I would keep sort of that almost sub leadership, right? Because I'm not trying to go into a team and take over at day one. But if I made a call out, it had some merit and some heft behind it, and people would recognize like, hey, like this guy plays like a dumbass, but he's actually pretty smart. Like he's got some brain power, and it helped me carry a lot through like whatever skill discrepancy I had against other top players. I made up with like brain power, which is why eventually I ended up pivoting into that coaching role, because I was like, hey, you know what, like I'm old, not really, but in esports standards, you're 23, you're an ancient, you're ancient, your reflexes gone. But I was like, you know what, like I'm done. I don't want to compete anymore. I don't want to be in the front line. But coaching is still interesting to me, because even though the game was like in a bad state, that's why I got out of it. Like watching it and analyzing it was still fun to me. Just that playing it itself was like a nightmare.
So before we like move over to the coaching stuff, because I do want to
Yeah.
like ask you about that. Is Overwatch the only game that you like competed in competitively?
If we're talking to a certain professional level where I'm earning money from it, yes, absolutely. It's probably the only game. I never tried out any other shooter when it came to competitive. I've liked Valorant. I haven't tried it out. I haven't grinded at it yet, but it seems fun, right? I have tried my hand at like competitive Pokemon. When I shifted more into the RPG state of mind, I really thought competitive Pokemon was kind of fun. It quickly like staled out for me, and I tried Smash, but holy shit! First of all, that community is it's special, but it's a gem. And I think there's some really cool people in it. I think there's some really bad people in it. Like it is, the Nintendo community is very scary. I stepped away. I was like, this is too much for me. Let me just say.
So like all the other
it's
things
hard,
you
and
competed
especially in Puerto.
all the other things that you guys competed in competitively was more amateur level.
Yeah, it was more of a casual, like me trying my hand, but it wasn't like I don't think a game has reached. I have not reached the same level that I did with Overwatch, or was even remotely close with any other game. Never known for any other game. Maybe Pokemon a little bit, and it's only because I knew top level players, and I kind of got like introduced. But I was still, in a tournament with 20,000 people, I was placing 20,001. Like even
Okay.
an empty space for bypasses would still beat me. So, so yeah.